Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Jessalyn. Jessalyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, before we dive into the subject for the day, Jessalyn, could you share just a little bit about your background, your passions in marketing, and a little bit about yourself to set the stage, and then we'll dive into a really fascinating topic for the day.
So I, like many content marketers, started out in journalism, but that didn't last long before I realized that was not going to be a long-term play for me and quickly transitioned into marketing. I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of really brilliant folks. I was a director of marketing for a statewide nonprofit, and I've also worked at an end-to-end marketing agency as a senior strategist, working with B2B and B2C brands. And then I also worked with a content marketing agency working with B2B SaaS brands. And then most recently, I took a role with an organization called WiseHive, which is a B2B SaaS platform serving philanthropic giving and volunteering services. So I am the director of outbound there. And I also do freelancing through my business, Fonty Marketing, where I do consulting and content for folks kind of ad hoc as well.
I love it. I love it. Lots of really good content experience. So I'm excited for the conversation today. Today, we're going to talk about really how you can differentiate your content. The market is saturated with so much content. It's easier to write than ever before. There's so much going on. There's this pressure from top down. Let's just mass produce content through AI and all these things. In your experience, how have you found, Jessalyn, how have people really managed to differentiate? How do they manage to create connections and provide content that actually provides value and builds a relationship? How can people actually do this, especially with the pressures to maybe just mass produce easily written content that is so easily available nowadays?
I think the thing that is so valuable about human-driven content, whether it's augmented by AI or completely original, is the nuance that comes from human experience can't be replicated by AI. And so I think a lot of times, especially folks that are not overly experienced in content, think that AI can drive business outcomes for them because, you know, they can reach all their vanity metrics. They can get the followers on a LinkedIn post that's generated by AI. They can, you know, get a SERP rating, or they can reach all these vanity metrics. But at the end of the day, those aren't actually going to drive conversions. And the reason for that is they're not providing real value to their readership. And I think where the value comes in is taking the time to really invest in good content. So that means providing proprietary research, doing the work to survey people in the industry that you're covering or your customers, or pulling data off of your platform if you're a SaaS company. It's engaging with your audience on a personal level and bringing your personal experience to the table. I'm not at all against AI content, but I am against strictly AI content because it doesn't actually drive value. You know, the SERP is so bloated with AI, clear scope, optimized SEO content. Like if I wanted to rank, you know, on the SERP, that's, you know, arguably an easy lift nowadays. And you can easily churn out like a bunch of SEO content. But the amount of, you know, bounces that you're going to have on a page, the number or the lack of, you know, click-through rate that you're going to have, and all of the metrics that actually matter, I just think they fall flat if you don't bring your own experience, your own data, something that's really valuable, something that's opinionated is really what drives value in the content space now, because real, true, opinionated, valuable insightful content is so rare now. Whereas your stock how-to pages or how-to content is easy to come by and arguably just redundant of everything else you're going to find.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think there's something really, really valuable there. The word kind of came up a lot that you were saying of unique, and AI is never going to provide a unique opinion on anything, right? It's going to regurgitate what it's been trained to learn and how to say and what to do because of a lack of personal experience. And just like any relationship, and that's essentially what we're doing with content marketing, in my opinion, is we're trying to provide value and build a relationship with individuals. If it's not a unique individual, a unique opinion, a unique take on something, nobody wants to engage with that. They can do that with someone somewhere else, just like if you had two neighbors who are identical, you probably wouldn't be friends with both of them because it would get really boring to have the exact same conversation over and over again. And I think there's a lot of value there. When you talked about like collecting data, I really love this because you're going out to subject matter experts, people in the field, people that are feeling the pains, and you're gathering information. How can we leverage that? How have you built any repeatable processes into how to formulate content and say, okay, cool, this is where we're going to go out and here's how we're going to collect the data and here's how we're going to write a story about it? But how has leveraging those channels and those individuals allowed you to write actual unique content?
I really believe with like staying in my lane. Like I'm not the expert on everything that I write about. I mean, Lord knows I've written for, hundreds and hundreds of clients, and I'm not an expert in fintech, and I'm not an expert in mass comm platforms or whatever else. But my expertise is really mining from SMEs, people that do have that industry experience, and then translating that into something that is basically understandable by the masses. I think that's the other piece of this is there's a lot of folks on kind of either end of the spectrum. There is strictly AI generated content, or there's folks on the other end of the spectrum that are talking in some other language from some other planet to their audience. And folks just don't, it's just right over their head. And so I think where content marketers can bring a lot of value is kind of in that middle ground of making it accessible, making it easily understood, but then pulling in insights from folks that really have the experience to bring value. And in terms of like repeatable processes, I mean, I think it depends so much on what type of content role you're in. I mean, in an agency setting, my experience has been just reaching out to whoever my point of contact is in that organization and just saying, hey, if you want to write on this topic, I need you to bring me somebody in your organization that's passionate about it. Like, who's the first person that comes to mind when you're talking about like Zapier integrations? And they're like, oh yeah, we have this really nerdy engineer like in back of house. And I'm like, that's the guy I want to talk to. I want to talk to like the nerdiest person on your team. I will translate like that nerd speak into plain English so your audience can actually engage with it. But that's the guy I want to talk to. Content marketers, our job today, I think, is really just like a translator for the layman to translate the value that these really, really brilliant minds are bringing to different industries and translating that into value that your audience can understand. And it's both our job and our privilege, I think, because I'm so excited and passionate about talking with brilliant folks. Like, I've learned so much from really great minds just by talking with SMEs.
Yeah, that's super cool. It reminds me of building your personas in marketing. And a lot of times we kind of make up an individual that fits these things where it may be better to just say, hey, I know, maybe they're in our corporation, maybe they're a customer, maybe they're someone else, but we're going to make them the persona and we're going to go to them when we have questions and things like that, because they are literally the persona that we're looking for. I was reading a book the other day, and it's like, if you want to grow your customer base as a company and you have like an ideal customer, great. That is now your persona, and go do everything. Like, that's exactly who you want again and again and again. Great. You've got your new personas. And I think there's a lot of value there to say, okay, cool. If Sally likes this content, or if Sally can contribute to this content and she gives me the insights, like, then I know it resonates, right? Then I know it provides value. But if Sally would never read this, then why are we even trying? Or if we didn't even engage with Sally during writing it, it's really tough in the process. So I think it makes a lot of sense there. And I love that process and kind of thought process of saying, hey, I'm not the expert in everything, and let's utilize people. I know some people aren't like overly eager to engage in that process. These individuals have jobs and lives and things like that. What are some tips and tricks you found to kind of engage with these individuals and actually get them excited to engage in the content creation process?
I think the easiest thing that I've found is, I don't know, maybe this sounds superficial, but like flattery goes a long way. Like I'll just reach out to folks and be like, oh my gosh, I've just heard that you're like the most brilliant engineer on our team. Can I please pick your brain? And rarely is someone like, no, I'm not the most brilliant engineer. I don't want to talk to you about how smart I am, So I think flattery goes a long way. And then in terms of like actually having the conversation, I have journalistic roots and I really just feel like having a conversation with folks and tapping into their passion is really what translates and provides value. So a lot of times I ask questions in extreme, like open-ended questions in extreme. And what I mean by that is like, what's your favorite thing about your job? What's your least favorite thing about your job? And then I'll write a piece speaking to those pain points that are about the least favorite parts, or I'll talk about like their most favorite part about the problem that they're solving that they're so excited about. So I think sometimes just getting people to stand on their soapbox is like the easiest way to get some really valuable, insightful content. And I think it also resonates because then the folks that you're then publishing that content for, your audience, are probably feeling the same thing. They're feeling the same frustration. They're feeling the same excitement over whatever is new on the market. So I found that to be like the easiest way to translate that. In terms of like a more tactile approach to that, typically I'll just have a call with someone, I'll record it, I'll pull a transcript, and then I kind of I'll pull pieces out and organize it into a more streamlined argument structure. Because a lot of times these folks will kind of talk in circles, but I try to hone in on what are some of the repeatable phrases that they keep reiterating over and over again. And usually that's a really big takeaway that we can incorporate into the piece. And then in terms of leveraging that for content marketing, if you are talking with the right SME, they're already talking about the product solution that you're providing. And it's just a matter of weaving that product language into the piece, and it doesn't have to be something you beat your audience over the head with. I mean, just drives me crazy. It's like, there's a very organic way. If you're solving real problems that real folks from the industry are talking about your product should be so easy because you're part of that conversation naturally. Yeah, after I've gone through and kind of built out the argument structure based on an interview, then I'll go back in and kind of plug and play our product language in UVP.
I love it. That's super cool. So I think that is a great framework to say, let's provide meaningful content that's differentiated from just repeatable and regurgitated content. Where do we go to source and write that? How do we work with those people? How do we write on subjects we may not be experts on and may not have a unique perspective on? And how can we craft a narrative that actually engages with people? I absolutely love it. Well, Jessalyn, as promised, 15 minutes is really, really quick. So I want to thank you for your time and sharing your expertise and your knowledge. If anyone wants to connect and further the conversation with you, how can they connect online with you?
LinkedIn is a great place to start. My website is also on my LinkedIn, and there is a contact form, fontemarketing.com, if you want to visit me there. I will say I'm not always the best at answering DMs in a timely way, but I will eventually get back to you. I do try to answer all of them.
I love it. I love it. Again, Jessalyn, thanks for the time. I appreciate it, and have a wonderful evening tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.